Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello there. Welcome to a dreary, rainy Pittsburgh, PA on the 30th? On the 28th. I have no idea what day it is. None. Zero. It's the 28th, apparently, and April 2016. Well, I thought that was the funniest thing imaginable. That Cruz Fiorina thing. What is it? Some kind of a... What? What kind of craziness is that? And here's my running mate, and here you're looking at the... What? This is a guy he's not going to get the nomination, and he's picking his vice president. It's insane. It really is. That's nuts. Although I understand Ronald Reagan tried to do the same thing in, 76? When he didn't get the nomination. He thought maybe it would help if he got some gravitas on the ticket from... because everybody was looking at him saying, hey, come on, he's a bad actor, and so he was the governor of California, who cares? And he went to the senator from Pennsylvania at the time to be his running mate. Do you remember that? Schweiker, whose politics today would put him on the liberal end of the Democratic Party, I think. Oh, how things have changed. Anyway, good luck with that, Ted. Two losers. What nonsense. Let me tell you something about this Trump thing. You can feel it. It's taken on a life of its own. There is no stopping it. You can feel it. You can feel people now just jumping on board because it's the place to be. It's where all the excitement is. It's a foregone conclusion, and there's anyone who's ever been like in a passionate kind of protest march knows that it feels good to be, sticking it to screaming and telling people, here's what we think. Listen to us. And that's what's going on now in this country with Trump at the head of the parade. I just hope there's a way to stop him before he walks into the White House. Because it's palpable. For the Republicans, it's over. He's their standard bearer. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. But those of us who still feel that the America we think we live in could not, will not, please have him as the representative of our country? Oh, maybe he's absolutely perfect. Come to think of it. Representative of what the U.S. has become. Garish and loud, vulgar, addicted to reality shows and macho posturing. Like a great old giant losing ground, feeling somehow that the future might not be his. I don't know. I think there are weird mass psychological kinds of aspects playing out in this. As an individual, you just feel you're being swept away on a tide. You do. All right. We're going. I didn't buy a ticket on this one, but we're going. And, it's surprising what the future can bring. I've lived through that before. But this was beyond my imagination. Beyond my imagination. Wow. It could be that only the women of America can save us. And it could be that that's good, that Hillary Clinton is, in fact, the only person left who can stop him. It could be that if he sort of continues the hardly unsubtle misogynistic tack that he has already begun, that enough women will stand up and say, enough. We'll see. But he's hoodwinked and charmed. When I think of charm, that's not like the image that pops into my head, Donald Trump, but he has charmed and excited a huge hunk of our countrymen and women. Anyway, I think, so Ted Cruz is in denial, and there are other people in denial. Let's not be in denial. This is done. It's done. They can still keep talking about Indiana, California, but this has a juggernaut aspect to it now. You don't win every county in 5 states and not have something called a juggernaut underneath you. He's leading already in polls in Indiana, in California, everywhere practically. Wow. So, I'm just saying, we use the word unbelievable a lot, but it's sort of like it's meaningless because it is because the unbelievable becomes reality. Well, then it better be believable, and yet I'm in denial. So that's it. We're going to have to deal with it. Damn it. Hard to believe. Sorry. I'm just, God dang it. Okay, let's for a little while talk about something else. Obituary of the day. Believe me, it's more uplifting. It is so much more uplifting. Because an obituary is not about death, it's about a life, right? And so I want to tell you about a single person's life, one person. Now, I didn't see this covered. One of you in Canada sent me this from a Canadian paper. I thank you. Why the hell I didn't see it in an American paper, I don't know. Especially since the guy died next door in West Virginia. 94 years old. His name was Frederick Meyer, or Mayer maybe. 94. Let me tell you about one life. Where to start, man? Okay. So he was born in Germany, in the Black Forest, in 1921. And he was Fritz Mayer. He was Jewish. So right away, you got a sense of where this story might be going. Fritz, who was all of 12 and 13 when the Nazis really started showing themselves for what they were, Fritz and his mom kept saying to his dad, who owned a little metal fabricating shop in town, "Dad, we got to get the hell out of here. We got to get out of here. Can we get out of here, please?" And the father, and this played out in so many families, The father said, "Don't worry. I served this country. In World War I received an Iron Cross for my service. This country would never touch me or us because of what I've done for this country, even if I'm a Jew." That played out in a lot of families. The proudest thing those Jewish families had was maybe an Iron Cross. Something, recognition of their service to their country, Germany. But about a year or two later, I guess the older Mr. Mayor grabbed his Iron Cross and ran. I hope he left it behind, actually. He ran with his kid, Fritz, and his wife. They were lucky. They were literally a month before the mass deportations of Jews began. They got out, and they not only got out, but they got to Brooklyn. And when they got to Brooklyn in 1938, Fritz insisted his name be changed to Fred, and he would never allow anyone to call him Fritz again because it reminded him, of course, of the terror and the hatred he had felt in Germany. So, like his dad before him, Fritz trained as a mechanic, and then Kaplui, December 7th, 1941, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. Where's that? And Fred joined up the next day. And he was posted here and he was posted there, and he was thinking, can't they make better use of me? And then somehow someone from the OSS, that's like prior to the CIA, someone from the OSS came and said, can we get any volunteers around here for some covert missions overseas? Fred, oh me, please. And so he volunteered. Now, he ended up being the leader of an operation that was codenamed Green Up. He was dropped behind enemy lines in 1945 in a German officer's uniform, German soldier's uniform. And he landed in Western Austria and immediately sort of began passing himself off as a lost German soldier. I somehow got separated from... Now, think about it. He spoke fluent German, so without an accent. So here he is, this German guy, the soldier, and meanwhile, what he was doing was unbelievable. He gathered critical intelligence on Nazi troop movements in Germany. He alerted the Allies to a huge convoy of German military trains headed for Italy with munitions and troops and all kinds of stuff. And he got the word out, and the Allies bombed the holy heck out of those trains. He even managed to, organize... in his German uniform, he organized hundreds of anti-Nazi resistance fighters. How the hell he did that, I don't know. So The war is, the Germans are screwed. Things are not going well at all. It's clear they're going to lose the war, but they keep on fighting, killing their people, killing other people. And weeks before the war ends, the Gestapo gets him. They held him. They tortured him. They waterboarded him. They pistol whipped him. They did everything possible to try to get him to talk and reveal the locations of any American whatever that could help the Germans, and he would not talk. Instead, when he did talk, he said to the Germans in German, "Guys, come on, let me go. It's over. It's over." Believe it or not, as the U.S. Army starts closing in, they did. They ran, and they let him go. Senator Jay Rockefeller said, Mr. Mayer is one of the great unsung heroes of World War II. In fact, the film Inglourious Basterds was based on the project that he oversaw. And after Inglourious Basterds showed, there was a documentary called The Real Inglourious Basterds, and that was a documentary that came out in 2012, and that chronicled a lot of the missions of this Project Green Up that this guy was a head. And he had to be in his, I haven't done the math, but he had to be like 21, 22 years old, 21, 22, 23, whatever. And he was a little guy, slight to build. But the pilot who dropped him in his German uniform into enemy territory, the guy's name was John Billings. And he told an interviewer once, he said, "I dropped him onto a glacier outside Innsbruck one night in February." Think of that. Jesus. And so he drops this guy onto a glacier, and he sleds down the glacier to a nearby town and begins his new life as a lost German soldier. But the pilot said in a telephone interview he was stunned at how unflappable this kid was, that he was about to drop into God knows what. He said he remembers him getting his parachute ready for the jump and calmly telling certain people this and that. And the pilot is quoted as saying, "I was in awe of him. He feared nothing." So after the war, the OSS said to the government, "This guy deserves the Medal of Honor." He actually, they cataloged what he had done, how many lives he had saved. He organized the disintegration, they said, of the enemy's defenses, and he sped the Germans' early surrender. What he accomplished was astonishing. He saved thousands of lives on both sides, including his own. So anyway, they never gave him the award. And I suspect that might have been the reason a lot of other people didn't get it. He wasn't the right religion or color. We've seen some of that corrected lately with posthumous givings of proper awards to black soldiers, Jewish soldiers, who, because of anti-Semitism and racism in the bureaucracy that would lead up to the award, they just never saw it. He didn't care. He wasn't into awards. He worked for Voice of America, and then he retired to West Virginia in 1977. He volunteered for Meals on Wheels and was doing so up until a week before his death at the age of 94. There's a life, huh? Frederick Mayer. Now, sort of there's a little Tubman-esque quality in that life, because he gets out of the death camp, out of it, and he volunteers, turns around to go right back in, which is what she did too. So, that's a good story, huh? I told you, the obituary is always the best part of the show. It's the most uplifting part of the show. It is. Oh, speaking of that, I saw the most absurd quote the other day from, what's his name? Larry Ellison? Is that his name? The head of, he's one of the gazillion, billion software engineering types. I forget his name. Ellison, right? He's a creep with too much money. Anyway, he's spending a lot of his money on research so that he doesn't have to ever die. I mean, think of the delusion of that. And so he said, this was the quote, he said, "Death doesn't make any sense to me." Well, sorry, Larry. You might be a big, powerful human being, but you're just nothing but a conglomeration of carbon and bacteria and, I don't know, stuff. I mean, you're going to die. As you might not make any sense to... Death might not mean any sense to you, but you make perfect sense to death. Oh, yeah. Another one. Okay, we've got some emails to catch up with. Do you think Cruz is preparing for a third-party run? No. He's too smart. And he's young. He looks older than he is. He's young. He's the same age as Marco Rubio. When I found that out, I had a lot of trouble getting my head around that. He's a young man. He can wait. He's still got a good shot, God help us. He'll want to have a party behind him, I would think. Although, well, wait a minute. When Donald Trump gets done with the Republican Party, assuming they go down to a stunning national defeat, it might be a better idea. He doesn't want to do a third party now, though. No. Cruz might want to, remake the Republican Party if it's been devastated after Trump. If, however, the unthinkable happens and Trump prevails, I don't know. Cruz is in trouble then. I don't know. Henri writes, the mistake that both Donald Trump and his supporters are making is that a country cannot be run like a business. A business is a dictatorship by design. This country can never be a dictatorship. Well, that's the sentence you've typed that I don't know is true. Because we're seeing an awful lot of Americans who seem to want that. They want this one man. I mean, if you were going to pick one man, you pick him? Yeah, but they are. You pick this one man who they somehow just swallow everything he says to him. ISIS, not to worry, I'll take care of them, like that. And when he doesn't tell them how, they are perfectly understanding of that. Well, he can't tell us how because then he'd be telling them, so no problem. I'll get those jobs back from China. I'll get those jobs back from Mexico. Meanwhile, he uses Chinese labor. He uses Mexican labor. I mean, this guy that they're falling for this says something so... I wish I could write the book. I wish I had the smarts and the energy and just the kind of knowledge to write the book about the sociology and the psychology and the history that's sort of propelling this insane phenomenon. The readiness of so many Americans to suspend their God-given ability to think. Back to Henri. I continue to think that Donald Trump is in this for the win and not for the presidency. I think that Donald Trump will sit down in the Oval Office on day one and savor the win, and on day two he'll regret it and want out. No, I think, Henri, I think you're underestimating him. Because if he's hoodwinking so many Americans, and so many Americans are engaging in this kind of suspension of disbelief and just, he is too. He is too. And I agree that he never in his wildest dreams back last year when he thought, hey, I think I'll take a stab at this. This will be fun. He didn't think. Why would he? He couldn't, really. No. But then he saw it. And I think he's gotten behind it. He's got his legs under him. He wants it. He wants it. You can see it in how he's building. Yes, he wants the win. But once you're in, I don't know what the White House would do to a man like Donald Trump. Maybe it'd sober him up. I don't know. We've had crazy people in the White House before. Richard Nixon. We've had real messed up, emotionally, really screwed up people in that White House before. Listen to me trying to imagine and hoping that if he were to win, he would, well, I'll tell you what, I think he would disappoint his, oh, dear God, I can't know. I don't even want to go there, because if Trump were to win, he'll have coattails. And that means you'd have a President Trump with a Republican Congress and a lot of old liberal justices on the Supreme Court. And he could pretty much put the nail in the coffin of the great experiment of the United States of America. But I think it's quite clear, back to your dictatorship remark, because it's true, what you said. The running of a government is not like the running of a business. It's not the same thing. A business has one reason, does it not? To make money. It's a profit motive. What is the reason of a government? Profit? No. So, I mean, at the very base of the comparison, it falls apart. I mean, the mission is totally different. People who... Okay, we got a call. Oh, dear. Hello.
Hello, Clarence from Canonsburg.
Yeah, I'm okay.
As you were talking about President Trump, normally I think these things out, but I'm not going to say this one, it just popped into my head. In a Republican Congress, remember in 2008 when it was President Barack Obama and a Democratic Congress?
That's true.
What the Republicans did to him? If the Democrats did that, just basically, we're going to do everything, no matter what, to stop it, whether we agree with it or not. That kind of attitude with Democrats would drive Trump, somebody with Trump's ego, crazy. You know what I mean? Where he's trying to do stuff and he has the Congress and they just keep filibustering and turning things around and acting like, complete morons. With Trump, I think that would drive him nuts. That's the first thing that came to my head. If the Democrats did to Donald Trump...
Because he'd find out he's not... You can't be a dictator, that the Founding Fathers set up the system where other people have power too.
Yeah. And I think that would drive him nuts.
But he's already nuts.
Right, I know he's nuts. I mean, like, nervous breakdown, going crazy. We got to get this guy out of here. You know, I mean, like, you see, like, you know, a Donald Trump with his hair standing straight up in the White House. You know, just crazy, you know, straitjacket crazy.
Yeah.
I can't see him taking that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's just, you know, like I said, I didn't think it through. It's the first thing, that image came into my head.
Yeah.
I was going completely bonkers if the Democrats did that to him. He couldn't handle it.
He'd sue him. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You can't?
Can't do it. You go out to the people and talk to them, and well, sorry.
Well, you know, he's provided us quite a show from the beginning, and it's going to continue well into. Good God, I just hope it doesn't. I do now believe he could win. He could win. I couldn't even utter those words before, but I still don't think he will, because I just think there are enough Americans who just are not going to be able to do that.
I don't, because of 2000.
Yeah.
And I know it was like weird, you know, because of the Supreme Court decision and all that kind of stuff, and vote counts and chads and all that stuff. But I remember my friend Jeff saying, "Do you think George W. Bush can win the White House?" And I went, "Nobody's going to vote for that idiot. No way."
Yeah.
So ever since then,
yeah.
I don't, you know, anything can happen. And they did it twice. You remember that after he won the second time, that little website set up, like a "We Apologize" website for George W. Bush the second time?
Yeah.
Yeah. This, you know, back then, every time I look back, I'm like, well, we could have a President Trump, you know, unless people work extremely hard, you know, and anybody goes out and votes, you know, Sanders supporters, you know, literally everybody goes out and votes against him. You know?
Well, it'll be a lot of people are going to have to realize that if they might not like Hillary, but they've got to then vote against Trump. You cannot let this man be the president of this country. You cannot. He doesn't have a clue how it works. He really only knows the one thing. And actually, you know, there's a sort of a smart and slightly snarky piece by Gail Collins today in the New York Times about how Trump and women, and she does say that he doesn't have any. She talks about how cramped his reality has been all his life as the son of this rich man who then, you know, was loaned $1 million and becomes rich. And all his life has been in real estate. That's what he knows. Mm-hmm. And to him, you know, I've often heard the phrase, because I use it, if all you got in your toolbox is a hammer, then everything looks like a nail, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, with him, and this is think of how he always talks about what he'll do as president. Mm-hmm. He thinks as president, all you have to do is treat everything like a real estate deal. It's all just a negotiation. And he feels very sure of himself when it comes to negotiating. I'm sure he's good at it. And he knows how to do that. So he thinks you just go in and negotiate. And that is, you know, I'm sorry, that is a real empty toolbox.
Yeah, I gotta go save the mailman.
Okay, goodbye.
Okay,
bye. Go save the mailman. Yeah. Did you hear him yesterday talking about Hillary shouting? Oh. He was saying, do you hear how she shouted that? You know, when she was coming back to, if Donald Trump thinks that I'm playing the woman card, and if the woman card means caring about women's health and women this and the equal pay and blah, 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 then deal me in, she said. Oh, he said, did you hear her shouting? Classic misogyny. Classic. A woman, everybody's supposed to immediately be reminded of their angry mother. Right? And he knows. He says, I know you're not supposed to say anything about a woman shouting. That's how he's gonna go after it. And Gail Collins brings up something. So one of the trump cards he has in Indiana is one of Indiana's most beloved citizens is the noxious Bobby Knight, who was the basketball coach for the University of Indiana, for the Hoosiers. And Bobby Knight has, of course, endorsed Trump, which, believe it or not, is huge. And Gail Collins reminds us of this. The great Bobby Knight, who once told an NBC interviewer, I think that if rape is inevitable, relax and enjoy it. Oh, yeah. Back to the future, folks. I love doing these things to give Celine. Celine is young enough that she doesn't remember she doesn't remember statements like that being par for the course. And nobody ever even said anything when he said it. Okay. Or good advice. Hey, did you hear what Bobby Knight said? It's good advice. Did you hear what Jimmy Kimmel said last night? You know, I continue to be very grateful that when we've lost the so-called real news media, I mean the NBC News, CBS News, ABC News, are not doing what news is supposed to do anymore. They're not. They've turned into the National Enquirer / People magazine. That's what they do. So thank God for the comedians. Thank God for the late night shows, because they are doing, and, you know, this, I'm not saying anything that hasn't been said before. But Jimmy Kimmel, who I don't think of as like the most political of them, he went nuts on his show, apparently last night. And the story that got him was the Dennis Hastert story. Dennis Hastert, and this hasn't gotten much media, amazing. Dennis Hastert, who was second in line to the presidency of the United States for 8 years? Yeah, 8 years. The longest serving in modern times, I guess, I don't know what, House Speaker. The avuncular good guy. You could never say Dennis Hastert without saying, you know, the high school wrestling coach from Illinois, Speaker Dennis Hastert. Well, he was convicted and sentenced to jail yesterday for the molestation of a number of boys who he coached. That it took until his retirement to get this out. And the only reason it came out was because he was paying hush money to one of the men that he had molested, which got the IRS on him, which, well, you know the story. So listen to how Kimmel, and again, this used to be, do you remember, this was in the era, well, listen to Kimmel, I'll just do this. Kimmel said to his audience last night, this story, for some reason, is not a big story. The judge today called Hastert a serial child molester. The guy was Speaker of the House from 1999 to 2007. He was Speaker of the House, during which time he called on lawmakers to put repeat child molesters in jail for the rest of their lives. Today, a judge gives him 15 months for that. And Kimmel went on. He ripped into Hastert for the unbelievable hypocrisy, for leading the crusade against President Clinton over the Monica Lewinsky scandal. And Kimmel says, I guess he was upset because it was consensual sex with an adult woman. Kimmel said, I think any time a politician pontificates about someone else's private life, a squad of investigators should be immediately sent to his house to investigate what he is up to. And Kimmel went on to say that the most alarming, the most sickening part of this Hastert story, quote, was that 60 people wrote letters to the judge on Dennis Hastert's behalf to help reduce his sentence. And it wasn't just family members. One of them was the former House Majority Leader, Tom DeLay, who wrote, when Speaker Hastert became Speaker of the House and I became Majority Leader, he started a Bible study every Wednesday at lunch. We held each other accountable, and we studied God's Word. I know his heart, and I have seen it up close and personal. We all have our flaws, but Dennis Hastert has very few. How in the name of God? Those are two former, hugely powerful Republican members of the Congress of these United States. DeLay's letter continues. He doesn't deserve what he is going through. I ask that you consider the man that is before you and give him leniency where you can. Kimmel's. He doesn't deserve what he's going through? He abused at least 5 boys when he was their wrestling coach in high school. He had a reclining chair set up in front of the shower so he could watch them take showers. Jared from Subway right now is going, why the hell didn't I run for Speaker of the House? "15 months. Serial child molester. Dennis Hastert. Tom DeLay has seen inside his soul because they read the Bible together. Isn't that something? This son of a bitch who destroyed lives had all these lives destroyed in his wake, rises to be the illustrious, honorable Speaker of the House. And he starts a Bible study. You know, never mind. Wow. Wow. Just wow. Chuck writes, Lynn, if I remember correctly, after the conventions are over, the 2 candidates begin to receive high-level security updates so that they can hit the ground running in January, should they win. I think those security briefings will scare the crap out of Donald Trump and make him wonder what he got himself into. We'll see. Yeah. You mean a little reality might intrude? I don't know. Hey, check this out. You always got to check what's going on below the Mason-Dixon line if you really want to laugh. This time, the great state of Tennessee. Was Tennessee below? Yeah. Governor Bill Haslam signed a bill yesterday that allows mental health counselors to refuse to treat patients based on the therapist's religious beliefs. Wait a minute. Now, I got to tell you, I really got trouble getting my head around. If you are a therapist, that's like a doctor, you go into that because you want to help people, I thought. You mean there are therapists who would not This is about treating, I guess what? A gay person? A transsexual? I mean, first of all, no gay person or transsexual would want to be treated by somebody who was obviously in the wrong line of work. But this is so repulsive. This turning, Republicans always do this. They turn everything on its head so that the First Amendment now, they think, is for giving the freedom to people to discriminate against others. I don't think that's what the spirit of the First Amendment is. Really. Can you imagine? The American Counseling Association called the legislation an unprecedented attack on the profession. Well, apparently there's members of the profession there in Tennessee who must have wanted it. Must have. Somebody had to go to some sympathetic legislator, and turned out there were a whole majority of sympathetic legislators. God forbid some transsexuals should walk through my door, and I gotta what? Sit in the same room with them and listen to them? What? I mean, I can't even. I mean, what? If a person was like a murderer, they have a problem with that? Does their religion. I mean, I don't even understand it. Tennessee is the only state so far to have this law, but you know the way it is in the good old USA, where the Republicans are in charge. This one will get around. Oh, dear. Okay. I heard something funny yesterday, says Brian. Well, we'll be the judge of that. If Trump gets elected, we will go from the first black president to the first orange president. Well, I think all the orange jokes were made before with John Boehner, right? Don't you tell me Chris Christie's wife looks like me. Don't tell me that. Oh, you are more attractive, but if you make a face, there is a resemblance. Why? Because we're brunettes with long straight hair? I don't look like her. If Hillary wins, do you think Bill will make it through the next 48 years? He looks very unhealthy. He looks unhealthy because supposedly he is healthier. He lost all that weight because he had all the heart stuff. So he's now like a vegan and he weighs 10 pounds. So he looks, it made him look, he doesn't look robust like he used to back in the day. I hope he's healthier than he looks, because I agree with you. He doesn't look good. And he doesn't sound good. His voice never always sounded a little weak. So I'm watching the news last night. This was what was I watching? I mean, they call it the news, NBC. And I told you, I watch this because Jeopardy comes on right after. And I'm watching the news, and they go to this place where Google is working on the stuff they keep under wraps. It's called X or something. And what's his name? The guy who's now the anchor, blanking on his name. He is interviewing the head of X. And the head of X starts talking. And I'm looking at him and I'm thinking. And then he says, Astro Teller, the head. I said, Jeez, it's Astro! I knew Astro Teller back in the day. He was a kid here in Pittsburgh. I almost bought into, it's the only time Astro, what a name. Astro Teller was one smart cookie. He was at CMU. For some reason, he was involved in the art world, which is how I got to meet him. Young kid, to me. And he had dreams of at the time seemed so bizarre, but he was talking about wearable computers and all this stuff. And when he got out of CMU, he immediately started a startup right over there. And he was, into, we'll wear things, we'll this, everything will like be reporting back, data, yada, yada, yada. And I totally fell for him. I just, so yes. And he asked if I wanted to invest. I said, you betcha. So papers were drawn up. Once the papers were drawn up, I got nervous because I looked at what they were saying. I took them to Susan, who knows. I showed them to my brother, the law professor. Everybody agreed that this was really fascinating and very exciting, but they scared the hell out of me and I didn't jump in. Now, I don't know that I would have made a penny. I might have lost that money on that first go-around. But Astro, clearly, I didn't know he ended up as the head of, the secret projects at Google. You're kidding me. Astro? Here's the other interesting thing about Astro Teller. His grandfather, who I didn't think he liked very much. You know him as Edwin, right? Edwin Teller. The father of the hydrogen bomb. That Teller. So it's not that unusual that his grandson was named at birth Astro. This is a brilliant family of scientists. But boy, when people pass through your lives and you forget they even existed, and then you see that, you think, Astro, I tried to hook a ride on his. I wonder if I would have made money. I don't think so. I think that initial thing didn't necessarily pan out. But he was here for some time trying to make a go of it here in Pittsburgh. And now, God knows what he's working on. A lot of it actually is like, the driverless car thing, and that was brought up. That's a given. That's an inevitability. And I actually have this thing I wanted to talk about cars. For those of us who like driving fast, sort of aggressively, screaming at the people in front of us all the time, which is me. I know that's not good. It's probably going to be really hard and boring to be driven at the speed limit. I will die. But that is what's going, oh my God. But that is what's going to happen. And there's a book out called Door to Door. The Magnificent, Maddening, Mysterious World of Transportation. I hate these subtitles that books have now. And do you know, this book is talking about our love affair with cars. And here's a few little facts. Listen to this. Yeah. Cullen, you can't say that and then not come up with one. Okay, here it is. Annual highway fatalities. Now, don't you have a sense that we don't kill as many people on the highways as we used to? I think that's true. Since seatbelts, since airbags. Annual highway fatalities in the United States, annual, are greater than, every year in America, more people die in car accidents than died in combat deaths in Vietnam, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, and throw in Korea. Those 4 wars. We kill that many people every year on the roads. It's the equivalent. It's equivalent to 4 big plane crashes, like a week. Now, if there were 4 plane crashes a week, do you think we'd pay attention? Do you think we'd say, "Geez, God, somebody's got to do something about this"? But the point is that we've made our deal. We love our cars. And so never mind that we kill 3,000 people every month. Oh, it's every month. Every month. So that would compare to the carnage of 4 airliners crashing every week. 4 airliners crashing every week. Think of that and how we would react. Think of this. 2014. Drunk drivers killed 12,000 of our fellow citizens. 12,000 just by drunk drivers. Same year, Ebola killed 2. So isn't that fascinating? Isn't that fascinating? How we just don't even acknowledge the death toll with something that we refuse to alter or give up. It's going to happen without us, and that's the driverless car. This guy points out that all the technology already exists, of course, that we could easily insist that the manufacturers make cars that simply cannot be driven by somebody who is drunk. That could be like that. Or where you couldn't use your cell phone in the car if it's in motion. They would simply not work. We could do that. Do you know how many lives would be saved? And we don't do it. What's that about? Remember the hysteria about Ebola? And stop and think of just that. The people dying in car crashes in this country is the equivalent of 4 airplane crashes a week. Think about it. God, I think human beings are bizarre. We are just effing weird. And kind of disappointing, I think. Oh well. Let's remember Fred Mayer, a life well lived. See you tomorrow.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.